We're just a week away from having a pretty good top 25, in my opinion, because at this point, I still think it's too early to even be ranking teams, but we're going to do it anyways. Again, you need to see at least a couple of games from each team against quality competition to really be able to judge them. And at this point, we haven't seen that. You got a team like Penn State, they haven't played anyone. We don't know how good Penn State is, so we're just kind of having to guess at this point. But after week 5, every team will have played at least 4 games because some teams have already had a bye week. You have the 2 bye weeks this year, so that's why you have bye weeks so early. And so I do feel like next week we're going to have a pretty good top 25, and I'll actually be changing my approach a little bit because right now it has nothing to do with resume. It's simply based on performance and trying to compare, how did you play against this team and how good is that team. And again, it's a little bit tricky, but let's start with, before we get into the top 25, some teams that are still undefeated, and these are just Power 4 teams. There are some Group of 5 teams undefeated as well, but just wanted to focus here on the Power 4 teams. Memphis beat Arkansas, but Arkansas is not a top 25 team, so I didn't really consider Memphis for the top 25 at this point, even though that was a great win for them. But these teams still undefeated, and they just really, in my opinion, haven't quite proven enough just yet. But I think that they could very soon be in my top 25. I actually dropped Georgia Tech out of the top 25. They were in last week. Remember, I start from scratch every week. It's a brand new top 25. I don't move teams up or down. You can win a game and you can drop because it's, again, a totally different approach each week, a totally different ranking. So with Georgia Tech, has really nothing to do with them and their performance or anything. But it just has to do with their opponents. So Clemson now looks like a bad football team. Colorado, they're not a very good football team, and they've won close games against both of those teams. And that's the logic that I've been applying so far this season. Same reason why Iowa State is not ranked. Kansas State, not a very good football team. And then you look at their win over Iowa. Maybe that one is starting to look a little bit better. Iowa did beat Rutgers. So Iowa State's like right there on the edge. They could be ranked next week, absolutely. Louisville hasn't really played anyone. UCF, impressive. I'll be honest, Maryland and UCF, those two surprised me. Even Arizona. Yeah, Arizona, Maryland, UCF. I'm very surprised that those 3 teams are still undefeated. But they are, and they are very close to earning their way into the top 25. Washington doesn't even have to beat Ohio State. If that game's really competitive, I might put Washington in the top 25 next week. Houston, they've looked good so far. So again, I just want to give some credit to these teams. We can't fit all of them in the top 25. I would love to put all these teams in the top 25 because just, going undefeated at this point, it's pretty impressive even if you haven't played the toughest schedule. I think all these teams have played at least one Power 4 team. I may be wrong on that, but maybe Washington hasn't. But yeah, I think these teams, you got to give them some credit. But let's get to the top 25. First, though, I do have some news for you guys coming up tonight. So the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers, the late night show. This is at 10 o'clock Eastern time every night during the week, post game on the weekends. But we're going to be moving that Monday show. He's going to be moving that Monday show here on the SG1 channel, and I'll be joining him tonight. So check that out. Join us live. I know it's kind of late, but at 10 o'clock Eastern time, join Mark Rogers and myself. It'll be the Voice of College Football late night show. So make sure you are there. I believe we'll be taking calls. So if you want to call in and voice your opinion or whatever, be sure to be there again tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Now let's get into the top 25. All right, so I've got Vanderbilt, Missouri, Arizona State, USC, and BYU, 21 through 25. BYU is really in the same category as those teams I just mentioned. They haven't really played anyone, but somebody had to get that 25 spot, and I think they've probably been the most impressive. They took down a decent East Carolina team this past weekend, and also this is a team coming to this year. You got to give them a little bit of credit for what they did last year. And so, yeah, BYU's the team that made it in here. USC has been pretty impressive. A couple of wins over Power 4 teams where they, I wouldn't say those were blowout wins, but they were impressive wins. They were nice wins. So USC with a little bit of a sample size. We'll find out more about them when they play Illinois this weekend. By the way, I don't have Illinois ranked. I don't know why I think I saw them still ranked in the AP poll. That makes no sense to me, but they got blown out by Indiana. And they had a very, the Duke game, they won by a lot of points, but that really wasn't a blowout. It was a competitive game most of the game. Anyways, just speaking of Illinois there for a second. But Illinois is a quality team, don't get me wrong. And if USC is impressive against them, I think that will just help them move up more in these rankings. Arizona State, so this is an interesting one. I think if you've got to, with Mississippi State and Arizona State, you've got to either rank them both or you've got to rank neither of them. And I was kind of back and forth on that. But I just think they've looked pretty good. They look like good football teams. Arizona State beating Baylor on the road, that was an impressive win. And again, that Mississippi State game on the road, very close, came down to the end, and it felt like they had it won, and they gave up that big play. Baylor is a good football team. I really believe that. And so I think Arizona State deserves to be here right now. That may change next week when we kind of, again, the approach next week will basically be grouping teams together, and so like these are the 4 or 5 teams that I think are the best teams, and then the tiebreaker is basically resume. So that's why I say the resume does start to come into play next week, and we'll see where Arizona stands at that point. But 3-1, Missouri and Vanderbilt both undefeated. I think Vanderbilt has to be ranked ahead of Missouri because they beat South Carolina much easier. The Missouri-South Carolina game was actually pretty competitive. But those teams are 4-0. Missouri also has that win over Kansas. They look good in that game. And Vandy's rolling right now. This is actually a good team, a lot better than I thought they would be. So I think, yeah, and I believe those teams were ranked in the AP poll as well. So I don't really look at the AP or coaches polls, because I don't want to like have my rankings affected in any way. Sometimes I'll just glance at it, but I don't really take a lot away from it. But yeah, I think Vandy and Missouri were both ranked there, as they should be at this point. All right, moving on to 16 through 20. And just talked about Mississippi State. If we're going to rank Arizona State, we got to rank Mississippi State, obviously. But I get the argument that neither one of these teams have proven enough that they're top 25 teams. They're both kind of on the edge for me. Again, I've got them in. If you want to have them both out and maybe put a couple of those teams that I left out, like an Iowa State, maybe you say, look, they've gone and they beat a couple Power 4 teams. You know, whatever. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But this is just, again, my best guess as to who the better teams are at this point. TCU at number 19. Nice win for them over SMU. I believe SMU is a quality team. I think you've got like SMU and Baylor because they both got 2 losses now, and they didn't lose to like top 10 teams. People are gonna sleep on them a little bit. I think SMU and Baylor are good football teams, and TCU winning this game over SMU, that was impressive. And again, Arizona State beating Baylor, like I just mentioned, and now the North Carolina win though. North Carolina's just a bad team. So, but if they were still impressive in that game, we'll learn more about TCU soon. Ole Miss at number 18. I didn't have them ranked last week, but they were very impressive against Tulane. Again, with close wins against Kentucky and then Arkansas, there was really no reason, in my opinion, to rank Ole Miss because they played close games against teams that were not top 25 teams. But now they've got that win. They've got a win over what we know Tulane's a good team. We've seen them win pretty, convincingly against Power 4 competition. So Ole Miss, in my opinion, now deserves to be ranked, and they're going to get an opportunity to move way up in the rankings if they can beat LSU on Saturday. All right, Alabama, number 17. They had a bye week. They got Georgia coming up. Again, I'm starting to believe more and more that Florida State's just that good, and Alabama's still a good team. And Michigan, nice win over Nebraska. This team looked good. That run game, very good in that one. So, Michigan, in my opinion, you lose on the road to a top 10 Oklahoma team. You're not going to get penalized a lot when you've got a Nebraska win like this to put on the resume. All right, next we've got 11 through 15. So Auburn, a lot of people probably going to think that's way too high, but look, they went on the road against a top 10 Oklahoma team and had a chance, had the ball there late with a chance to go down and win the game. Obviously, they did horrible on that last drive, and you had some controversial plays in this game as well. So I think Auburn should still be ranked. And if they're really competitive on the road at Texas A&M, they might still be ranked for me next week, even if they lose. Now, obviously, if they win that game, then we're going to be talking about potentially a top 10 team. But again, I was pretty impressed with them. Notre Dame finally got a win, but this is really more about losing to 2 top 10 teams by, a combined 4 points. Notre Dame, in my opinion, is still a quality team. Texas at 13. It's just kind of wait and see at this point. I think they have a bye week this week, so we're really not going to know a lot about Texas until the next week. So when I say next week's rankings will be good rankings, maybe that there are still some holes here, but I think we'll have a better, it'll be a better ranking next week with everything we can gather from the first 5 weeks. LSU number 12. Again, the Clemson win doesn't look as good now, and so that's kind of hurting LSU here. The Florida win doesn't look as good. Florida's got 3 losses, although they did have a little bit of a fight against Miami. But Tennessee at number 11. The Syracuse win looks better for Tennessee because of what Syracuse just did to Clemson. And I know Clemson, again, I'm saying they're not good, but you can make an argument. Syracuse beat Clemson easier than LSU beat Clemson. And so that Syracuse win for Tennessee, that's why I have Tennessee ahead of LSU. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's move on now to the top 10. Oklahoma, number 10. They look good against Auburn, especially on defense. Offensive line, the offense struggled at times in this game. So, yeah, I want to see Oklahoma play another team before. I know that Oklahoma is a really good team. I know that. I think we've seen enough. John Mateer's a great quarterback. Are they national championship good? I don't know if we know that yet. I'm not saying they are or they aren't, but I'd like to see them play, 1 or 2 more games against good teams, and then maybe Oklahoma's the best team in the country. I don't know at this point, but I know they're a good team. Texas Tech, very impressive against Utah. That performance on the road was enough for me to put them all the way at number 9. Florida State, we're going to find out about them against Miami soon. Florida State plays a game against Virginia on Friday. I think that's on the road. That could be a little bit tricky. Virginia's been pretty good this year. That could be on the upset alert video. We'll see. Texas A&M at number 7. Didn't play this week, I don't think. Indiana, number 6. Very impressive against Illinois. This is maybe the most impressive win of the season in college football. I mean, they absolutely obliterated them against an Illinois team that, again, I think was a little bit overrated, but it's still a quality team. That was impressive. And so Indiana, I don't care where they were ranked last week. It's a brand new ranking. I got them all the way at number 6 because of that performance. And they looked really, really good. And I think that they might have Iowa next. So we'll get to see them play another, pretty quality opponent. And we'll see how that game goes. All right, our top 5 now. We got Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Penn State. Not many changes here. As Tennessee looks better because of Syracuse beating Clemson. Now Georgia looks better. Like, all these games matter. You have to look at the whole landscape. Penn State is just here based off of preseason expectations. So we don't know about Penn State. We're going to know after they play Oregon. And then, if they get blown out in that game, I won't have Penn State ranked next week because that's really the only sample we have against quality competition. So, yeah, Penn State's not safe. But on the flip side, if they win that game and they look really good doing it, they might be number 1 for me next week. So this is the game that's going to determine where Penn State should be ranked, in my opinion. Oregon continues to roll. Ohio State didn't play. Miami, I almost moved them down, but because of the way Florida came back and made that game competitive, but then you saw Miami do what they needed to do to pull away and put that game away. And that's what great teams do. So I've still got Miami at number 1 for now. Again, if Penn State looks really good against Oregon, or Oregon looks really good against Penn State, maybe one of those teams jumps up to number 1. Or let's say Ohio State goes on the road and beats Washington by 40 points. Maybe they're number 1. Again, it'll be a brand new ranking next week, and we'll see where these teams land. And what I, again, believe will be the first actually pretty accurate rankings that we have, because right now these rankings are still not good. They're getting better, but we really don't know without seeing some more football. So that's my top 25. Give me your thoughts. Give me your top 25 down in the comments below.